So many players do this wrong, and maybe you are too. That's why in this video, I'm gonna delve a little bit deeper into the racket drop or the lag on your serve. As in my opinion, there are tons of misconceptions about the racket drop, and honestly, an overemphasis on it, which is to help you to achieve it. And if you're a player that suffers from the common weighted strain on your serve, this video is gonna help you too. Let's get into it. The main problem that I see players make is them thinking about the racket drop. When you watch the pros and top players serve, yes, you will see their racket drop super low as they drive up to the ball. However, not a single pro thinks about it, nor did they ever think about it. The racket drop or the racket lag itself is just a reaction of two forces. The first force is your rotation. If you look at my racket here, if I keep it relaxed and rotate my hips to face the court quickly, the racket is naturally going to drop by itself. The second force is upward force. When I drive my legs into the ground and push up into the court, you'll see that my racket drops even deeper. And so the act of the two forces of rotation and driving upwards is how pros get that deep racket drop. But there are two barriers in our way to stop that racket drop from happening. Number one is players actively thinking about it and gripping too tightly. When you try to make that racket drop happen, you're gripping tight, dropping the racket down, and you're really limited as you create tension in your arm. If you try to manipulate your racket, forcing the racket head drop to happen, it can really screw up your timing. If you drop the racket too early, you're going to end up in more of a pushy serve, or your racket head and racket face is going to be in the wrong position at the back of the swing, and you've got to re-manipulate the racket to find your contact point. Whereas if you let it happen naturally through that rotation and leg drive, the racket's going to follow its most natural path, and that's what we want for an efficient serve. The second restriction for lots of people is a lack of mobility or flexibility in your external shoulder rotation and your upper spine. And so the question is, how can we work on it? The first thing that you need to make sure that happens on your serve is that you get yourself into a good pre-throw position. This is the position that you get into before you throw your racket up to the ball. Ideally, we need to get our racket into a position here with roughly a 90-degree angle here and a 90-degree angle underneath your armpit. If we get ourselves too jammed in or too straight, then this is going to make the racket drop really difficult to happen naturally. So during your serve, video yourself playing and just check out this position at the back of your swing to ensure that you're getting that right position. Once you are, you can go through these couple of drills to help that racket drop to happen more naturally. First up, you're simply going to stand sideways on in your pre-throw position, and you're going to fire your back hip to rotate forwards quickly. Keeping your hitting arm relaxed and your wrist relaxed, you should see the racket dropping, just like so. Now, once you've done 2 or 3 of these, you can then let the racket flow all the way through your swing, like so. Now, when you're doing this, because you're not driving up with your legs, the racket path is going to be quite low. It's going to be unrealistic for a serve, but we're just feeling that disconnection between your hips turning first and your arm following through afterwards. This is called the racket lag. Now, one thing to be aware of when you're doing this is that when you actually serve, your hips fire a fraction of a second before your racket comes through, but you'll actually make contact with the ball with your hips roughly 45 degrees from the court. What we don't want is to over-rotate our hips before we strike the ball, as if we open up too early, we're going to lose a lot of control. But this is just a practice exercise just to get you looser and relaxing to allow that racket drop to happen. Another way that you can feel slightly looser when doing this is to grip the racket just with 2 fingers instead of your whole hand. By doing this, this will really emphasize that racket drop at the back of your swing. The next progression is to start using your legs to drive up and into the court. So again, starting in your pre-throw position, set yourself up in your normal stance. I've got a platform stance, but if you've got a pinpoint stance, you can actually start with your feet together, and your aim is to pretend to throw the ball up, bend your knees and drive up into the court. Again, just allowing that racket to drop by itself. As I mentioned, there are two barriers, tension in your arm and lack of mobility. Those two exercises address the tension. This one will as well. You're just simply going to throw tennis balls, but instead of throwing them forwards, you're going to throw them directly upwards. So using your normal serve setup, your aim is to throw overarm, but you're really going to tilt your shoulders and aim your throw directly upwards. Let's give it a go. Need to hit you. That was a good one. That actually went behind me. Good. If the ball goes back, that's even better, as you're really allowing your forearm to drop behind you. But this does require good external rotation. And what I mean by external rotation is your ability to rotate your forearm backwards like this. And so if you feel that that's an area that's limiting you, I've got a couple of stretches for you. The first stretch, you need a wall. Maybe a door frame is a good one for this. And you're going to put your arm at 90 degrees in the same position that we want for our pre-throw position. Push it up against that door frame. And your aim is to turn your chest away from the door frame. You should feel a stretch all the way through your upper pec here. But if you turn enough, you'll also feel the stretch through your rotator cuff as well. This is just increasing your range of movement when it comes to external rotation. You can also do this one on the floor. For this one, you need to lay on your front like so and put both of your arms in those 90-degree positions. And your aim is to see if you can lift both of your palms off of the floor, hold and down, hold and down. Now, you'll actually feel this squeezing in the back of your shoulder. This is because you're working those tiny rotator cuff muscles that you probably don't use that much in day-to-day life. So start off holding for 1 or 2 seconds, and if you get better at it, you can hold for longer. The second stretch is really good for your upper back mobility, and it's called the Sphinx. You're gonna lay on your front, start off by putting your forearms on the floor, pushing your chest and shoulders up. Try to look forwards on this one. Once this feels comfortable, you can progress onto putting your palms onto the floor and pushing up. Really trying to push your shoulders back, lifting your chin up to the sky. By simply adding these stretches and exercises into your daily routines, you're gonna see a big improvement in that external rotation mobility and your upper spine, allowing you to get that natural racket drop that you're looking for. So, stop thinking about the racket drop, let it happen naturally. Work on being looser on your serve and do a few of those mobility stretches, and you'll see a big difference in how deep that racket drops and in turn, a more efficient serve. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, check out this playlist that I've put together on serve tutorials, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.